God certainly does appear to be obsessed with foreskins. According to Genesis 17 verse 11, God was chatting with his buddy Abraham and said to him, "You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. It will be a token of the covenant between me and you." God is a smart guy, so he's bound to come up with a smart solution like writing out a contract, isn't he? Paper was invented at some time between years 25 and 250 of the Common Era, which is long after the time of Abraham. But since God is omniscient and omnipotent, couldn't he have spoken paper into existence? It didn't occur to him to invent paper. Surely, though, he could have chiseled the covenant out on stone. According to Exodus, he seems to be pretty good at that, having chiseled out the 10 Commandments a few times. Couldn't he have given them a baked clay tablet with the covenant on it? Not paper, not stone, not clay, so what bright idea did God come up with? God is omniscient, but the best idea he could come up with is mutilate your dick. Why does God want you to mutilate your genitals as a covenant with him, and why didn't Abraham question God's sanity? What does God have to say to someone who says, "I ain't mutilating my dick for anyone"? Not even for you, God.
You're despicable.
God will have a hissy fit, take his ball home, and not let you into his happy place in the sky, as he makes clear in Genesis 17 verse 14, where he says, "The uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." At least he didn't react like the Red Queen. How did Abraham react when God told him he had to cut off his foreskin? That he had to do the same to all of his children and all the other males in the household? He didn't argue with God because he didn't like the idea of being locked in the basement for eternity, and much preferred the idea of living in the happy place in the sky with his buddy, God. On the very day that he spoke with God, Abraham took a blade of some sort to his own 99-year-old dick, then did the same with his 13-year-old son Ishmael, but not Isaac, who hadn't yet been born, and all the other males in his house, including his slaves. Not only has Abraham deprived those men of their freedom, but he damages their dicks as well. Moses and his wife Zipporah were no better. She took a flint and cut off the foreskin of her son, cast it at his feet, and she said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." A bridegroom for her? Do I detect some incest going on here? Until now, there was no set age at which a boy's dick was to be mutilated. God decided that it wasn't fair that baby boys were missing out on the fun, so he ordered that the foreskin should be removed when the boy was but 8 days old. God, being God, doesn't give a shit about the pain that a poor defenseless little baby will feel.
You're despicable.
Deuteronomy 10 verse 16 says that we are to circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked. Firstly, what the hell is the foreskin of the heart? If any cardiologist watches, I'd appreciate it if they could tell me where to find it. Secondly, if you're not very careful with that knife, it might not just be your neck that doesn't stiffen. Jeremiah talks about foreskins of the heart, and, when Judith talks about foreskins, she tells us that someone called Achia loved God so much that he circumcised himself, which allowed him to join the house of Israel. That's one hell of a membership fee. What other fun stories are told about foreskins in the Bible? Joshua, the guy who destroyed an entire town after getting his troops to blow trumpets, made himself flint knives, and circumcised the children of Israel and built a hill with the foreskins. That begs a couple of questions. Question 1. How high was that hill? It's got to be more than a meter, because that would just be a pile of foreskins. 10 meters? 50 meters? 500 meters? Let's be conservative and go with a 50-meter hill. That begs the second question. How many foreskins do you need to build a hill 50 meters high? Thinking about it, another few more questions occurred to me. How long did it take Joshua? Did he stop for a coffee and a smoke? Did he get any sleep? Did he have something to eat or drink? Another thing we learn from the Bible is how many foreskins a woman is worth. Samuel tells us that Saul had a daughter named Merab. He was deathly afraid of David, so he offered David Merab in marriage. Saul reneged on the deal and gave her to some other guy, but he did give David another chance to become his son-in-law. Another of Saul's daughters was Michal. She was in love with David, so Saul said to David that he could marry her for the very low cost of 100 foreskins. David was so impressed with this beautiful young Jewish maiden that he decided to pay Saul double the price he'd asked. I wonder if David got those foreskins from the hill of foreskins that Joshua made. If you like what I do and want to see more, please click like, subscribe and ring that notification bell. And now, I'm going to get serious about the topic of circumcision. A baby boy isn't asked if he'd like to be circumcised, so he has no say in it. His parents decide to get it done, so they visit a doctor or a mohel if the family is Jewish, and circumcision takes place. That circumcision takes place without the use of anesthetic because they claim babies don't feel pain. My wife was a registered nurse for 38 years and attended a number of circumcisions. In every case, the baby had to be strapped down with his arms and legs secured, and the baby howled with pain when the cut was made. I have asked believers, particularly Jews, for a reason other than God ordained it, why circumcision of an infant is necessary. Many immediately said that God ordained it for health reasons. If that was true, why didn't that omniscient God just say to the ancient Jews that they should circumcise their baby boys because there could be health issues in the future? The answer, of course, is that the Bible was written by scientifically illiterate people who had no idea of the actual cause of disease, because they believed that demons cause disease. Many believers still think that is the case. In the 21st century, the commonest reason for circumcising a baby boy is, you guessed it, religious belief. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam either require or recommend circumcision. Other reasons for circumcision include hygiene, prevention of disease, family, and personal reasons. Is hygiene a good reason for mutilating your baby son's penis? I would argue that it isn't necessary at all. When your child is very young, you bathe them ensuring that you clean them thoroughly. As they get older, you simply teach them how to properly clean themselves and the importance of doing so. It isn't rocket science. Is disease prevention a good reason? Again, I would argue that it isn't. The Australian organisation Healthy Male asserts that it reduces the risk of some sexually transmitted diseases. They say that it appears to reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections, but they don't provide any links to peer-reviewed scientific papers to support their assertion. I searched their website for links to scientific papers, but couldn't find any. They do say that condoms have the added benefit of reducing the risk of getting or spreading sexually transmitted infections, for which I commend them, but despite searching their website, I found no articles promoting safe sex. Are family reasons a good reason for circumcision? The usual reason it happens here is because the father was circumcised. Does the fact that a baby boy's father was circumcised when he was a baby, something he had no say in whatsoever, provide a good reason for inflicting pain on your baby son? I would argue that it doesn't. The last reason I mentioned a few minutes ago was that some have it done for personal reasons. If an adult male decides, for whatever reason, that he wants to be circumcised, that is his choice because someone else isn't imposing that decision on him, but he does need to take into account the risks. The Healthy Male organization says, as for any medical or surgical procedure, the potential benefits of circumcision need to be weighed against possible harms. These include surgical accidents, complications from anesthetics, and infection after surgery. They also say that circumcision is a less complicated operation in baby boys than it is in older boys and men. Complication rates are also lower if circumcision is done to prevent disease, rather than to treat an existing problem. Some men believe that circumcision increases sexual satisfaction or function, but, according to Healthy Male, it does not seem to result in any benefit or disadvantage when it comes to sexual function. In conclusion, I don't believe that your religious beliefs are a sound reason for mutilating your baby son's penis. I believe that teaching proper hygiene, promoting the use of condoms, and the practice of safe sex are a superior solution to address the risk of sexually transmitted diseases. Nor do I believe that a baby boy should be mutilated just because it was done to his father. I believe that the only acceptable reason for circumcision, apart from an actual health issue, is when an adult male, having considered the risks and potential benefits, decides for himself to have a circumcision. I'd love to hear what you think. Please add your thoughts to the comments. If you like what I do and want to see more, please click like, subscribe and ring that notification bell.